before the Raptors entered into serious talks with the Clippers, they contacted the league office and asked about this scenario. And the league office said two things that are important to realize. One, they would not block or stop a Kawhi Leonard trade. However, if there was a trade, the Raptors or whoever team acquired Kawhi Leonard would have to deal with any penalties that he was given as a result of this investigation. So this development is not new. What I suspect the Raptors and Clippers did here, especially after hearing from Adam Silver at the finals that it was getting time to wrap up the investigation, is that they believed that the investigation would be wrapped up by now. The Clippers have maintained their innocence since the start, and so they went ahead with it thinking that by mid-July it would be done. It's mid-July and it's not done. And so the Raptors, they've been negotiating with Kawhi Leonard on a contract extension. Kawhi Leonard came to Toronto, took and passed his physical, was there posing for photos this week when Kyle Lowry retired and the team announced his number was being retired. But they hadn't done the deal yet. And so the Raptors had to take this step because people across the league were wondering just what the hell was going on. But if Kawhi Leonard faces a real penalty here, we could see the trade terms reopened. And I think that's what the Raptors are trying to protect themselves. But on a certain level, they're protecting themselves from the unknown.
Toronto Raptors Kawhi Leonard trade is in jeopardy and is currently on hold. Yes, Kawhi Leonard is not officially a Toronto Raptor right now as I speak, due to investigation that the NBA is doing on the Los Angeles Clippers. About a year ago, maybe 10 months or so, it came to light that Kawhi Leonard was under a fake endorsements. We found out that the Clippers, when they signed Kawhi, there was a deal made that he would be a part of some sort of endorsement. Found out that that was not a real thing. So because of that, they're under investigation because that is illegal. It was a way to launder money to Kawhi. Kawhi wanted a big deal. The Clippers weren't allowed to sign him to so much money, but to make sure that they could get Kawhi on their team, they needed to figure something out. And what they did is they, I guess, essentially created some sort of fake charity or were a part of some sort of fake endorsement. And that was a way to then give Kawhi the money that he wanted. So clearly Kawhi is at fault and so are the Clippers. Do they want to penalize Kawhi? Do they want to penalize the Clippers even more? That's the big discussion now. Is Kawhi going to be a Raptor or not? First of all, the Clippers could essentially lose whatever they just did and has to kind of go backwards, meaning Kawhi could be a Clipper still and Grady Dick and Brandon Ingram go back to the Raptors if they cancel this trade. Second, Kawhi could be suspended. I don't know if he will or how long he will, but there's a chance that even if he's a Raptor in a couple days, they could say, Kawhi, you're out for half the season. You're out for an entire season. So why are the Raptors being punished?
So, Kawhi Leonard, our good brother Kawhi Leonard, the trade with the LA Clippers and the Raptors was rescinded. They said no. Because apparently the Clippers are being accused, and our fellow Detroiter, Steve Ballmer, if you didn't know, he's from Detroit, they're accused of paying Kawhi under the table for some tree company, some fake company. The guy who had the company or who they blame is in jail for fraud for like 14 or 15 years. And now they're pending an investigation. They're nixing the trade or putting the trade up for hold. So imagine the Detroit Pistons being in that pickle 2 years in a row. You had a situation with Malik Beasley where he, fucked up the last offseason. You make a deal for Kawhi, and then they hold up the investigation, and then all of a sudden they nix the trade. See, they're going to nix that. In my opinion, after this point, this is just my opinion. I think they're preparing a ban for Kawhi Leonard. Think about this for a minute. They're probably going to give him a suspension or they're going to void the last year of that deal. This is very serious. Now, has this happened in the NBA before? I'm pretty sure it has. Where they found different ways to pay guys under the table and, all that type of stuff. But imagine the Detroit Pistons involved in this shit. You built your roster around Kawhi being here, and then they nix it. Now, what's so funny about it, and I'm going to talk about this in another video, Brandon Ingram, the Clippers was trying to reroute him somewhere else. So, at the end of the day, Ingram go back, and now, Ingram was going to get traded again. The Lakers, the Pelicans, the Raptors, the Clippers, then from the Clippers to somewhere else. So, at the end of the day, maybe they don't find nothing in the deal that's wrong. But Kawhi is a nice guy, and maybe they may not make an example because he Kawhi Leonard and he good for the league. But if they find something, most likely he gonna face a ban. You gonna face a ban, bro. They probably gonna suspend him for a season or 50, 60 games or something like that. The Clippers probably gonna lose a bunch of draft capital, a bunch of money. If it's really serious, they may make Steve Ballmer sell the team. But imagine the Pistons having an offseason how they wanted to go. And at the end of the day, you trade these resources for Kawhi now. You know, you're sitting here scrambling again for 2 off seasons. You're scrambling again at the Beasley. That's how you ended up with Karis LeVert. You really was getting to kill Alexander Walker. You chose to go to Atlanta. Can't be mad at Atlanta. Now you scrambling 2 years in a row. So Kawhi not wanting to come here was a blessing in disguise. Now what do the Raptors do? Do you sit here and how long an investigation gonna string out? You would hope an investigation wraps up before the start of the season. You would hope it wraps up by the end of this month, this week. But the Pistons dodged the bullet. Every time in humans, we want things to happen. We want stuff to happen so bad. And sometimes we go against the will of God and we make it happen and end up being the worst decision. You know, we say, oh, I should listen to my first mind. That's you listening to God. Sometimes you force something to happen and it don't, you know, when you force people to do stuff they don't want to do, or you will yourself to do something that you really want to do, but it ain't within God's will, it usually goes all wrong. Sometimes you oversleeping and not going to the club, you could have had a bad night. Something bad could have happened. You can't find your car keys to go to Mickey D's, could have saved you food poisoning. So Kawhi, them missing out on Kawhi, it's just you out of, you know, now if you was in this situation, you the Raptors, what do you do? Do you wait and see how it play out? And if a disgruntled Brandon Ingram come back to the 6, do you act like you hash it all over and we Gucci? Do you trade them somewhere else? But they're in contact with Adam Silver on what's going on. But we know how these investigations can be going on. And I think it's admitting guilt. I think the Clippers are admitting guilt by saying that they were not going to re-sign Kawhi Leonard. They was not going to give him a contract. What? What? You not going to give him a contract? And they trading him because they know the penalty is coming, bro. They know the penalty is coming. They know the penalty. And the one thing about Kawhi that got to be in the back of his mind is like, I never should have left. I never should have left Toronto. That's in the back of his mind. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. That's in the back of his mind. So the Pistons really dodged the bullet. They dodged the bullet. And that's the God honest truth. They dodged the bullet with this guy. They really did. This was the smartest move they could. This is the smartest move they did make. I think they were willing to load up the wagon to get this guy. And they did. So we would have been scrambling. So I'd rather much deal with having Collins and having Isaiah Joe and everybody else than dealing with the fact that, you know, this can go. Now you scrambling and rambling around. You know what I mean? So that's just my opinion on it. But hey, thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, find me on X, Facebook, Kick, Twitch, Instagram, Spotify, Anchor, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. Appreciate the love and support. You can find me everywhere. In the description, it say literally find me everywhere. We do some funny work on Facebook. A lot of good work on Facebook. But hey, appreciate y'all. Check out Detroit Pistons Talk playlist for more videos like this. Thumbs up the video, hype the video. Peace.